Coming up on Now See This. Firefighters brawl with a blaze and get knocked out of the ring.
Get the out of here!
A suspect takes a serious hit,
Oh, he's not going to make that turn.
and it knocks him silly.
And it looks like his pants are falling off here.
And a racer's nitro-fueled funny car becomes anything but funny.
It's like, oh, this ain't good.
You can try to fence in deer, dogs, and desperate drivers. But in the end, all you can do is hold on. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. Monday through Friday, Ken Berg is a mild-mannered mortgage broker. But on the weekends, he soars like Superman. Today, Ken is wearing a helmet-mounted camera to record his fellow skydivers taking the plunge. Once they pull the ripcord, Ken's job is done, and now he can enjoy the ride down to the drop zone. But when Ken opens his parachute, there's a problem. The lines are in a tangle. Ken is still falling fast, and there's no time to unravel the cords before he hits the ground. Ken resorts to his reserve parachute, but to his horror and disbelief, its cords are twisted too. As the reserve chute finally snaps into place, Ken breathes a sigh of relief. But he could never predict the trauma yet to come. While moisture fogs his camera lens, Ken scans the sky below him for his free bag, a part of the reserve parachute that detaches completely and is expensive to replace. He spots the free bag falling towards a farm below. Ken alters his course away from his planned drop zone and descends toward the farm instead. It's a choice that will haunt him for the rest of his life. As Ken realized he was rapidly approaching a tree line, he panicked and pulled a hard U-turn. But it left him no time to slow down before slamming into the ground. Ken's helmet cam keeps rolling, recording nothing but chilling silence. Until... it's the inhuman sound of human suffering.
Ed? Oh, that's Ken.
Ken?
All right, hang on. Don't move him. Don't move him. Hang on, dude.
Call somebody.
Yeah.
Don't move. Ken, don't move.
Just catch your breath, dude. Just catch your breath.
Help's on the way. It's on the way right now.
Moments later, Ken's terrified wife Elizabeth arrives on the scene.
Oh my God.
Go get Dick.
Go get Dick.
Get Dick.
Here, go. Bobby, are you okay?
Go get Dick.
He's responding. He had the wind knocked out of him.
Give me the keys, honey.
He had the wind knocked out of him.
You're okay, Bobby. You're okay.
But Ken's injuries are worse than they know. He suffers from a fractured pelvis and vertebrae, as well as punctured lungs. Elizabeth recalls the moment she first saw her injured husband.
I just knew there was something wrong. He wasn't just getting up and, walking around or anything, and the three guys were already over there. So I just knew that something wasn't right.
Ken is taken to the hospital, where doctors say he'll survive, but it will be a long road to recovery.
It took me a period of 4 months to truly recover to where I can physically get back to work and get back to normal life again.
This home video was taken of Ken's first steps after the accident.
Wow.
The fact that he's walking at all is a miracle, considering how close Ken came to losing everything. Starting with the valuable free bag which he so faithfully pursued.
In my mind at the time, it was more important to me to save the $400 or $500 than just to find a safe place to land.
But pulling such an abrupt U-turn was Ken's critical mistake.
When you turn, accelerates you towards the ground, swings you out kind of like a pendulum, and then it slammed me right back into the ground.
Ken and Elizabeth have overcome this difficult time together. Now the couple face their next challenge, deciding whether Ken will ever skydive again.
It breaks my heart to think that he would want to do it again, but I think that's just his personality, and he's got to do it one more time just to show himself that he still can do it.
Ken agrees it's a challenge he needs to face.
After skydiving for 9 years and 1,300 jumps, it's in your blood, you know, and you got to get back up on the horse.
But when he does return to the sky, one thing is certain. Nothing will be more valuable to Ken than his safety. Welcome to the world of funny car drag racing, where speeds regularly reach 300 miles per hour. Gallons of nitro fuel are devoured in seconds, and the engines are so big, you have to flip up the entire chassis to get at them. It's the final round of qualifying at the National Hot Rod Association's AutoZone Nationals in Memphis, Tennessee. New Jersey gearhead Terry Haddock is strapped behind the wheel of the nitro funny car in the far lane, preparing to reach a speed of over 300 miles per hour. In seconds, he'll pump over 70 gallons of fuel into the throat of a 7,000 horsepower Dragon. But this beast has other plans for Terry. As he passes 260 miles per hour, the huge engine ignites. Fanned by sheer speed, the fire rapidly engulfs Terry inside the funny car. The car finally comes to a stop. The escape hatch flips open, but Terry doesn't exit. The cockpit is filled with toxic smoke. He can't possibly be able to breathe. Fire crews arrive. But before they can act, Terry miraculously pops up and out of the escape hatch and crawls over the guardrail. His escape is simply unbelievable.
You don't realize you're hurt and you don't realize nothing. I'm trying to take my helmet off and my hands don't work. They finally got the helmet off and I just wanted to be left alone so I could catch my breath. And then some of the safety people were trying to pull my fire jacket off of me. And I kept telling them to stop. And then it started to hurt. And then I looked down at my hands and you see skin hanging there. It's like, oh, this ain't good.
Terry remembers every second of his incendiary trip and can't work on his new dragster without thinking about that day.
Everything seemed okay. Staged the car, stepped on the gas. It went out a couple hundred foot and it shook, so I pedaled it. Then it just started running really good, and in about half track, it just blew up. No warning, no signs, no nothing. Just all of a sudden blew up.
Terry spent almost 50 seconds in the funny car Inferno. But to him, time almost stood still.
When you drive nitro funny cars, your mind slows everything down. So what would normally be a 5-second run at over 300 miles an hour feels to me like it's 10 minutes. By this point, there's so much fire that it's boiled the brake fluid out of the brake lines. Stopping at 260 miles an hour when you're on fire isn't as easy as you might think it is.
Once the car was stopped, Terry tried desperately to get his harness off, but something went terribly wrong.
What had happened was there was a piece of Velcro on it that had melted together. So I took my gloves off, and that's how the burns got on my hands. But then I was able to break the harness and get myself out.
Part speed freak, part adrenaline junkie. It takes a special human to remain calm in this situation.
There was only a split second where I had to tell myself to stay calm or you could die, but you really don't have time when you're focused on doing a job, and at that time the job was getting stopped and getting out safe.
In true extreme fashion, it took Terry only 7 months to climb back into the driver's seat. But he did have a moment of pause.
I wasn't so sure I wanted to do this anymore. Once they started the car and everything, it all went away. And I'm good as new.
Desperate times call for desperate measures in Davis County, Utah. Sheriff's deputies had just arrived at a domestic disturbance call when one subject hopped into this pickup truck and took off. Utah Highway Patrolmen join the chase and receive a report that the subject behind the wheel is a 17-year-old boy. Between fear, lack of driving experience, and speeds of 100 miles per hour, this is a recipe for death. Highway patrolmen try to box the teenager in and slow him down. But he maneuvers around them and picks up more speed. Pursuing policemen are desperate to stop him, or at least take the speeds down a notch. Up ahead on the left, a patrolman pitches a spike strip out on the freeway. The teen swerves around the trap, and the pursuit continues. Aggravation and aggression take over, and the boy starts to drive more erratically. He swerves across 3 lanes of traffic to try to outsmart the troopers. While this may be the teen's first pursuit, the cops are veterans, and they stay right on his tail. The teen slows to around 70 miles per hour to take the curve with officers in close pursuit. Then the youngster takes a drastic detour. But when the dust settles, officers are waiting, guns drawn. There's no movement inside the truck. A sheriff's officer moves forward with a first aid kit. The teen appears to be unconscious and unable to exit the vehicle, but he'll pull through. However, upon closer examination, it appears the boy didn't actually lose control, but steered the truck into the abutment. This outrageous action was a deadly attempt to control the outcome of his pursuit. Because he's under 18, he won't be charged as an adult, and police won't even release his name. They're trying to give him a fresh start, and perhaps he'll use it. In Pittsfield, Massachusetts, police are baffled with how to free Bambi. Cops got the call and figured it would be a cinch rescue. Not quite. The wrought iron fence won't budge, and the animal is so scared, she's pulling her hair out. The little one has tried so hard to wiggle herself loose, she's shaved off much of her coat. It's a heartbreaking scene as the fawn tries to inhale, only to be painfully constricted by the bars.
Yeah, I'm gonna need the spreaders.
All the commotion has the animal back on her feet. Rescuers plant the jaws of life between the 2 bars. These hydraulic spreaders look like a weapon, and they pray the animal doesn't get spooked. They move slowly and gently, careful not to hurt her in the process. A few tugs and firefighters finally pull her free. The deer is up and out of there.
I'm an animal lover, and it was nice to make sure to see her run off was great.
This was not your average call, but if rescuers hadn't been up to the task, the only thing that would have saved this deer was a diet. The awesome fury of forest fires is fascinating to watch from a distance. That's why news stations pay big money to freelancers who are willing to provide them with this kind of footage. Unfortunately, getting the prized money shot can put these photographers right in the middle of the danger zone. John and Nancy Casper are a husband and wife freelance news crew on the front lines of a growing forest fire in El Cajon, California.
Came up here to get a good view of the fire, and we got a better view than I expected we were going to get.
Firemen pull hoses up the hillside and try to cut off the approaching inferno. But something happens to the hose as they reach the top.
Oh,
Jon Casper captures footage of the advancing fire line as the fireman tries to repair the hose. Suddenly, the situation goes critical. The battalion chief realizes his entire crew is in danger. He has to get them off the hillside. Ever the professional, Jon continues to roll, watching through the viewfinder, not realizing that a wall of flame is headed his way. Firemen rush to stow gear and find a way out. In an instant, they're in the mouth of hell. Jon Casper is still glued to the viewfinder, mesmerized by the dancing inferno and the escape scene unfolding before him. Just as flames begin to lap the engines and fire crews, they pull away, leaving hoses behind. But Jon holds his ground until the intense heat singes him out of his trance and quickly beats a path to his truck.
Come on, let's get the out of here.
As they pull away, Nancy holds up her hand to the window, startled by the radiant heat through the glass.
But we're not out yet.
Had Jon and his wife stayed another moment, it would have been their last. Once the adrenaline is gone, reality sinks in for Jon Casper.
I guess my thought was more for what I'm getting in the viewfinder than it is for my own safety. It's like you're watching it on television and it's not going to hurt you.
But Nancy wasn't caught in the adrenaline of the moment.
All of a sudden I saw the firefighters just running for their trucks, the fire chief jumping in his car and taking off, and Jon's still standing out there shooting the fire, and I'm going, come on, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car.
But Jon pushed the limits of danger so he could capture the most critical moments.
The close calls make for the good pictures, but nobody wants to get burned. You want to get the close calls, and you want to get the firefighters in the close calls.
With every fire, Jon and Nancy walk a fine line between safety and chaos. It's a dangerous dance.
Come on, let's get the out of here.
Every time I go out, I worry about our safety. Every single time. Because you'd see firefighters with experience get burned. You know that if they got burned and they have experience, that what am I going to do? I'm just a cameraman.
A bizarre accident is about to test the skill and determination of one small-town fire department. Less than 5 minutes ago, this garbage truck lost its brakes in Rockland, Delaware. It careened straight over a 3-foot rock wall and then plummeted 20 feet down, making a big, dirty splash in this serene little pond. The driver, Frank Gosha, managed to escape from the truck and wade to shore. His neck is sprained, and one of his fingers is nearly severed. But that's nothing compared to what his co-worker, Gary Civey, is going through. Gary, a husband, father, and church volunteer, is still trapped in the cab of the sinking truck. Until minutes ago, Gary was pinned under a slab of stone that came loose when the truck crashed through the wall. Some passers-by managed to heave the stone off Gary's chest, but they weren't able to get him out of the cab. Now the only thing keeping the garbage truck and Gary afloat is the strong backs of these good citizens. Ropes have been tied to the truck itself to keep it from sinking into the murky depths with Gary Civey still inside.
I need some people down here. Whoever's up there down here now.
Firefighters and paramedics scramble to try to extricate the victim from the truck before the men on shore lose their grip. But that turns out to be much easier said than done. Gary can hardly help himself. His right arm has been pulverized in the fall, and he's losing blood fast. The water level is rising and the clock is ticking. Immediately, the firefighters tie the garbage truck to their own truck to keep it from sinking any deeper. With his one good hand, Gary struggles to push himself forward, and the paramedics are finally able to reach him.
That's what I'm saying. Give me a board, get something from here to here, get him over to there.
Rescuers lower a ladder and board into the pond, and Gary Civey is carefully lifted from the cab.
So you're gonna have to hold that in, man. Shut up.
The firefighters gingerly slide Gary along the ladder and onto the embankment. But this is where the rescue effort gets even trickier. Firefighters must now hoist him up by crane, hoping against hope that nothing goes wrong. Safety is mere minutes away, but in this case, it also happens to be 20 feet up. One false move, and this already battered victim could go crashing against the rock wall. But the rescuers aren't about to let him slip away now. These guys are experts, and minutes later, Gary is gratefully resting on terra firma. An hour after this garbage truck careened out of control, Gary Civi's life is finally safe. Gary's arm will take a long time to heal, fastened together by pins, screws, and hinges. But the fact that he's alive at all is a miracle. This was a complicated endeavor that would have tested any big city rescue crew in the world. But these small-town heroes got the job done and saved a life. This driver is running from police on the streets of Los Angeles, California. And unlike a lot of fugitives, he knows what he's doing. For instance, it's rush hour, and this suspect knows just how to maneuver to keep cops off his tail.
He's been driving at speeds of excess of 100 miles an hour. You can imagine how dangerous that is right now at this time of day.
He also knows that if he drives recklessly enough, police will have to give him plenty of leeway. So as casually as most people pull out of their garage, this man steers straight into opposing lanes.
No, he's on the wrong side of the road now, and it's, oh, that was extremely dangerous, and he's still on the wrong side of the road, oncoming traffic. Let's see what happens here. It was just a fresh screen. Look at that.
His shrewd methods are paying off.
In fact, the police officer's having a very hard time keeping up that motorcycle officer. They're on the right side of your road there. He was the only one able to squeeze through there.
Now the suspect has only a few pursuing officers. He turns down an empty service road.
Right now, not a lot of traffic on this mainly commercial road here.
Normally a wide open stretch like this is a green light for police to push their suspect to the shoulder. But this guy isn't worried. He knows the cycle cops are no match for his full-sized van.
We'll see what happens. There's lots of cross traffic ahead.
Eventually, the suspect's detour spills back out onto the congested surface streets. But that's okay with him. Once again, he knows how to get around.
You can see that the suspect is kind of in a situation where he's boxed in. In fact, now he pulls into that parking lot of a commercial structure there, passing the loading dock, now inside that commercial, and there's a car there.
Police are getting nervous. The suspect is proving himself a mastermind behind the wheel. In fact, unlike the 10 million other residents of Los Angeles County, he even knows which side of the interstate is free of traffic.
Now it looks like we're getting on the northbound 5 freeway. The 5 freeway completely jammed right now, southbound. Northbound, it's moving okay.
Taking full advantage of the open space, he guns the engine.
He is extremely fast. In fact, there's only one motorcycle officer that's keeping pace right now, and you can imagine how dangerous it is for him.
But there's one thing the suspect doesn't seem to know: when to stop.
The suspect is driving at about 95 miles an hour right now. Oh, he's not going to make that turn.
The driver got cocky and thought he could take this turn at high speed. Now police are finally going to see the face of this smooth criminal.
And it looks like his pants are falling off here.
But they quickly realize that he might not be so smooth after all.
He has nowhere to go. There's an officer right behind him, guns drawn. There are officers everywhere. He gives up. He's got nowhere to go.
He's cuffed and taken away to face a handful of charges. A perfect example of what happens when a cold, calculating fugitive loses his cool. 3 rescues thousands of miles apart all have one thing in common. The victims have to be collared, and fast. In Los Angeles, California, 2 pups are trapped in a storm drain.
Come here, puppy!
They're cute, cuddly, and stubborn. Firefighters try luring them with some kibble and a homemade ham sandwich. But these pups aren't buying it. If rescuers want them out, they're gonna have to go in and get them themselves. They pluck one pup up, but he makes it clear that he's not happy with the situation. The other plays hard to get, but she too is wrangled in a matter of minutes. And the doggy duo is safe before tragedy is unleashed.
She's so adorable.
3,000 miles away in Delaware, it becomes clear that the same curiosity that killed the cat can be pretty rough on dogs as well.
Good work.
Dory the dog went missing for 3 days before her owner found her stuck face first, deep in a groundhog hole. The soppy weather conditions have made Dory a difficult rescue, the kind only firefighters are trained to handle. With the jaws of life, they slowly cut away at the dirt, careful not to injure the dog.
That big cement block that's in right there was under her feet, and she was actually vertical, head first into the hole.
And she's finally free.
Hey! Good job!
Dory takes in some much-needed air, shakes herself off, and if given the chance, her owners say she'll be back hunting for groundhogs soon enough. But no pup is more in peril than this dog in Delaware. Woofy, an 11-year-old terrier, tried leaping an iron fence, but came up short, causing him to become impaled. Rescuers work nice and slow, carefully cutting away most of the fence so they can transport him to a local hospital. Woofy's family knows surgery on a dog this old is risky, but doing nothing is a certain death sentence. It was touch and go for an hour and a half, but doctors pulled Woofy through. She's back outside fence free, and this time safely on a leash. 4 desperate dogs, 3 heroic rescues. It's proof that every dog does have his day.